grateful that y'all decided to join me today. This week we are going to be painting about the story of the man who could not walk and how Jesus helped heal him and how his friends lowered him through the roof. The picture you see right now is the final product that you will be painting today. Our supplies that we need today are one big brush, one medium-sized brush, one small brush for details. I have a light yellow color, a light blue, a dark blue, a purple, a light brown, a dark brown, and a white. And those are all the colors that we're going to use today. Of course, it's always optional for you to pick your own colors and your own designs. That's always up to you. Again, I am going to sketch first on my canvas, and if you don't want to sketch, if you just want to skip that step, there's a link that you can click and it'll show you the picture already made for you. You can just print that out and color it or paint with us. So let's get started. So we are going to draw the man walking, and I just want to start with a little line to help his feet stay even, and eventually that's going to be our ground line. So we're going to start from his legs and go from his bottom up because that's easier to build it and it helps keep everything in portion. So we're going to start with this foot right here, his left foot, sorry. And we are just going to sketch out his toes. So this week, instead of being more realistic like the hands last week, we are doing more of a cartoon looking man, but I think that's kind of cool because he gets to look however you want. You can add more details, you can keep less details. It's always entirely up to you. And again, just like all of the colors. My canvas is facing vertical, and last week it was horizontal for the arms, but you can do it horizontal or vertical, whatever you want. But my man's kind of tall, so I wanted to make it vertical. His leg. So this one, his foot is like kind of pushing off the ground, and his other leg is gonna be curved down like that. And then we're just gonna curve out the toes because he's just walking along. He's so happy that he doesn't have to just lay down anymore. Now I know his toes look a little bit pointed, but that's just kind of part of the cartoon look. And again, you can change whatever you want. You can make it more realistic or less realistic. Always up to you. So back in Jesus' time, men did not wear like pants and shirts, they wore robes. And so we're going to give our man a robe. And how we're gonna do that is we're gonna draw kind of a wavy line because clothes aren't really straight lines. And then we're gonna curve it down towards his legs and stop at his leg and then go to the middle. And at about the same spot, draw a line across, and then stop at that leg, and then come out and curve back. And that gives it the illusion that the legs are coming out from the clothes, so it's more realistic looking. So now for the robe, you're gonna take it from the corner of where you drew your little oval, and we're gonna start with the back side. So I'm gonna go in a little tiny bit, and then out. Again, clothes aren't very straight. They're a little bit wavy because when you wear them, they like move. They're not just straight lines. So we're gonna do that, and now we're gonna do his other side, which is gonna curve in a little bit. It's gonna kind of actually stay curved in. And I like to go like back and forth so my lines, I know they're how I want them. So I'm just gonna come down from the top and curve off his chest, and then I'm going to do a curve at the top. And again, I love sketching in pencil because you can erase all of your mistakes that you make right now. And you don't have to worry about it. It makes it a lot more stress-free. So now we're gonna take this line and we're gonna draw his arm. And I want his arm in like a little elbow because he's holding his mat. Jesus told the man to pick up his mat and go home. And so I want to make sure that he has his mat when he goes home. So we're going to have his arm holding his mat. I think that's probably good. We're going to do the same thing we did for the bottom for the sleeves. So we're just gonna do an oval like so. And then take the line up and back right there. So now you have your arm. Let's draw his little hand. His hand's kind of funny looking, but that's all right. We gotta make it a cartoon hand, so it doesn't have to look very normal. His thumb's gonna come out a little bit like that, and then his hand's gonna go back in the sleeve. I'm drawing a knuckle line right there, if you can see that. And then his fingers can attach, so he's got all his fingers. I'm gonna go ahead and erase the line right here on his wrist, so it looks like his hand's coming out of the sleeve again. And we're just gonna go ahead and draw the mat before we go over to his other arm. So you are gonna trace along the line leading back to his body. Then you're gonna stop right, like just a little bit after his arm meets his torso. And you're gonna curve it out just like that. And then curve it back in. And the mat can be whatever size you want. You can make it bigger, smaller, depending on how you feel. And so now I'm going to do the opposite side. The opposite side is gonna be smaller because you wanna give it the illusion that it's a little bit farther away from us than the man actually is. So I'm gonna go ahead and erase this line, and just like we did with the sleeves at the bottom of the robe, we are going to circle, and then we're gonna do like a cinnamon roll line. And that's just so it looks like it's rolled up. So it's just a little cinnamon roll line. Really cool. So now we're gonna do this other arm. We're doing so good, we're almost done already. We're gonna draw out his arm. And so if you lift your hand up like this, you can kind of tell that your clothes like will bunch up and kind of fall down a little bit when you lift your hand up, especially if you're wearing loose clothing. And robes are kind of like big and flowy and loose. So his robe on this hand is gonna be bunched up a little bit. And then we're gonna have it connect to the hand. So I'm gonna have it start there. So it kind of bends, because this elbow is like this, so he's walking like this. And I'm just gonna go ahead and do half the circle so I don't have to erase the lines later for his arm. And we're just gonna finish out the arm part. So he's just got a little bit of a bend where his elbow would be. So we're gonna get this arm. Great job. All right, so now we're gonna do his fingers. And if you look at like this, you can see the inside of my fingers versus the outside of my fingers. And so I wanna make sure we represent that correctly. So this part is gonna be the outside of his fingers, or the inside of his fingers, sorry. And we're just gonna draw them like that. And again, you don't have to draw hands. You can draw it super big, so you don't have to draw hands. You can just draw the man. Always up to you and how you're feeling that day. So now I'm just gonna draw a line back across and just go whoop, whoop, like that. Perfect. And then we're gonna draw the heel of his hand like this. So it's gonna curve in a little bit more than the fingers do, but not too much, you know? Now we're gonna draw the head. And so what I do for cartoon heads is I don't draw faces. I don't draw like eyes and a nose or hair. I just draw circles, and I only draw hair if it's girls, like I draw on cam. But this guy's a man, so for circles, I do circular motions, and then I slowly come down on the canvas and I do the size of the circle that I want. So I just do little short lines to sketch all the way around because I want his head to be a nice, perfect circle. So I didn't give him a neck because it's a cartoon and I didn't think he really needed a neck that much. So his head is just connected to his body right there, which I think looks perfectly fine. So now I'm gonna take the bottom line that we drew to make sure his feet were right, and we're just gonna finish the line all the way out, just like that, because he's walking on a road. All right, so we're done with our sketching, and if you wanna like write words on it, like a word that stood out to you the most, like walk or love, you can do that, but for now I'm just gonna leave my man like he is. So I think when I think happy colors, I think like yellow and blue, and today's a happy day, so I want to draw my sky like a happy blue. But you can color your sky whatever colors you want, even depending like on how you feel. And I'm just gonna do a happy little blue, and I'm gonna add a little tiny bit of purple. So I got my light blue, and I'm just gonna put a little bit, or I'm gonna put a lot on my canvas, or on my palette. And for your palette, you wanna make sure you use something plastic that's easy to wash off, so it doesn't soak all the water out of your paints, because that makes it not good. And now I'm just gonna add a little bit of purple to give it a little bit of like a mixed color. One tip that I learned while I was watching some art videos is that we're gonna wanna use our big brush for this. One tip that I learned while watching some art videos is if you take a little bit of water on your brush, not a lot, just barely water, so your brush is like a little bit damp, and you use that, it helps spread out your paint more, so you're not using a lot of paint, because I know sometimes paint can be expensive. So when I mix this when I mix this paint, it looks a little bit marbled. I didn't fully mix it because I want the sky to have a little bit of different depth, but you can do it whatever color you want. You can add blues or greens or whatever color. It's always, always, always up to you. So we're just gonna start painting the sky. We're gonna go back and forth just like this, and eventually I'll start to add some water so we can just really go like around the man, and the water helps spread it out, which also gives it different layers, and it kind of looks streaky, but I think it adds. And I might want to add some happy little clouds, because I think clouds are happy. I like fluffy clouds. So I'm gonna add some water. I'm gonna take my brush, and we're just gonna dip the tips slightly in there, like barely. Like you barely have water on your brush because you don't want it to run. And you're just gonna keep painting. And you can add more. I learned that it's like really hard to break your canvas, so you can push really hard on your canvas if you need to. And you can always add more color or different colors. Always, always, always up to you on what you want to do. So I'm just getting my sky in there really good. One thing that you really might want to pay attention to is the direction that you're painting. You don't really want to go up and down and left and right. You want to pick one direction and keep going, because if it does start to get streaky, you can tell if you have been going in different directions, and it doesn't look as good as it can. So you just want to make sure you're going in one direction. But when we get into like the man and painting the man, he will look a little bit different, and his paint on his body will be much different. And so it doesn't really matter how many directions you go with him. So we're just painting away. One of my favorite parts of the story is that this man's friends took him to see Jesus. This man's friends believed so much that Jesus could cure this man and help him walk again. And so they cut open somebody's roof, which is crazy. Like, imagine being in the crowd and listening to Jesus talk, and then all of a sudden there's like a light above Jesus and you're like, what just happened? And it's just some guy getting lowered through the roof. I think that'd be an amazing sight, especially after you know Jesus healed that man. I need some more paint on my canvas, so I'm going to add some more. Got my light blue. I think I'm gonna add some dark blue this time instead of purple, and I'm just gonna blend it. No, the sky does not have to be one color. It can be all kinds of colors. And I have been using water just whenever I need it on my canvas. Just make sure you do that. So we got the marble effect again. And if you're doing colored pencils and you wanna do a bunch of different colors, but you're afraid it's gonna look bad, if you have a white colored pencil and you use that and you blend, or if you add different colors with your white colored with your colored pencils, and you take your white colored pencil and you do little circles, it blends the colors together, which I think is pretty cool. I'm mostly staying outside of the man's lines and outside of the lines for the ground, just because I don't need to color down there with this color, and so I don't really want to waste my paints. But it's okay if you do. We're gonna be painting over anyways, so it doesn't really matter. Just getting close, and if you want to switch to a smaller brush or the medium-sized brush while you're doing this, that's okay as well. I just like using a bigger brush because I don't want to waste my time with a small brush trying to do the big sky back and forth, back and forth. So I'm just getting in there. I have an angled brush, so I just turn it this way and that, which helps me stay outside of the lines better. Again, you just want to make sure you're going in one direction, so you're keeping it very continuous. And you'll notice I kind of come back up here sometimes. It's just to make sure I remember to blend it, because sometimes I'll forget to do that. I don't want to forget to do that. I'm actually going to switch to my medium-sized brush right now because I want to make sure I get all of the details the right color. So we're just gonna get in here with a small brush. My small brush, or my medium brush, is flat. It's got a flat head, so it's not angled at all. Just blending. And if you do go up and down, that's okay, but you just want to make sure you blend it back out with all of that coloring. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish doing all of the details, and you can just pause this video if you're not done, and then we will get right back to painting the man. So. Alright, so we got all the details that we need for this, for the sky, and you can tell it's a little bit messy, but it's okay, it'll fix itself later. So now we are going to work our way just kind of down, because we don't want to stick our hand in the paint, so it's going to work kind of like that. So we're going to start with the head. We're going to start with the head, and we are going to paint the color that your skin color is. So I did a light brown and a white, and I added a tiny bit of dark brown. I already have my color mixed here, but you can do whatever color you want for the skin color always. So we're gonna start with the head. We're just gonna paint in the circle. I like to do circular motions. When I do this, sometimes I will paint and I'll trace whatever lines I did with the paint, and then I will go back and fill it in just so I know where my lines are. And if your color, if you're you accidentally painted your sky color into your head or anywhere, and you start to see the color coming through a little bit, that's okay. We'll do a second layer, and you can always add more paint on top of it after it dries a little bit. But you do want to make sure that it does dry a little bit, because if not, then you're just adding more paint and it's just mixing it together and it's not really doing anything. So we're mostly done. Again, this can be whatever color you want. Since I already have the color on my brush, I'm just going to go ahead and paint this hand. And you'll start to notice that the lines will get covered up. And that is alright. We will do a little bit of shading later, but not a lot. If your pencil lines start to drag through and you start to see it affects your color, don't worry about it too much. We'll just erase your pencil lines, or you can just add some more color to it later. So now we are going to clean off the small brush, and since we're already over here by the hand, let's just go ahead and color the mat. My mat is going to be a light yellow color, because I imagine it was a straw mat, because back then they had straw mats. And so I'm just gonna do it a light yellow color like we have here. If you don't have a light yellow, you can mix yellow and white, or you can just do it white or yellow, or you can do whatever color you want. So I don't need a lot for this because it's not a big mat, but I am going to have to do 2 layers to it. So we're just gonna start back here and just paint. And sometimes if you have to scrub the paint in, that's okay. It doesn't hurt your canvas or anything. But you can see it's kind of a little see-through because it's a lighter color. Lighter colors tend to be a little bit see-through. And you tend to see the pencil lines through them, which sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good. So I just always make sure I have enough paint to do a second layer, at least. So you can kind of see the pencil lines kind of drug through that, but that's alright. It gives it a little bit of shadowing already, but we're gonna go back and do a second layer, so it doesn't matter. So now we're gonna do the robe. I have thought about different colors, but I remember that back then, in Jesus' time, colored fabrics were really expensive because it took a long time to make them. And so I'm gonna do a dark brown robe because I believe that was a color that the man would have worn because it was cheap, and it was a wool colored robe, so it wasn't very hard for him to get, and I imagine that was pretty common. So the robe is gonna go all the way down, so you might need a little bit more paint than you have been using. I'm going to use my medium-sized brush because it's a little bit more of an area to cover. I have a rag over here, and whenever I dry off my paintbrushes, I can either wipe them on my apron or you can get a paper towel to dry off your brushes, but I don't really want my colors intermixing, so I just try to keep it simple and just dry them completely off. So we're just gonna go up and down in contrast to the back and forth way we did our sky. One thing that's super important to remember when you're painting or even just coloring is that the colors around a certain color will affect the way it looks on your canvas. So this color could look really different depending on how many different colors I had around my canvas or the colors that were around my canvas. I look at this and it's kind of a little bit thin, so I might end up doing a second layer just to keep it a strong brown, because we don't want streaky paint. I like using my easel because it helps hold the picture up, and I don't always like laying on the ground to paint my picture or having the picture flat on the ground, because it makes it hard to kind of see how it will look on a wall or the angle that you'll be seeing it at. So we're just going down. I'm gonna switch to my mini brush because the details are getting a little bit smaller, and I just want to make sure that I don't get too much paint outside the lines because I don't really want that. But again, if you do, it's not a big deal. You can just paint back over it. So tiny details I like to do sometimes. I'll like go back and forth really fast, and that kind of scrubs the paint in to the detail where I want it. And if you see white dots on your canvas, like where you've painted and there are white dots still, you can just scrub it, and that should get rid of them. If it doesn't, maybe think about adding a little bit more paint. I think this man probably felt pretty relieved that he could walk again. It would be pretty cool that Jesus decided to help him walk again, but I think the biggest takeaway from this story is that Jesus said, "Friend, your sins are forgiven." And it's crazy that the God of the universe is so willing to forgive our sins because he just cares about it so much. And so he's so willing to forgive our sins, and that's the way that he shows us he loves us and he cares about us. And I think that's pretty wild. So we're just getting the last details in of the man's robe. I'm gonna do a second layer later to make sure we get the color back in. Right now, I'm gonna do the feet and the hand that we didn't paint yet. And then we'll go back over everything and we can do a second coat, just to make sure it's all painted. When you are making your skin color, a thing to keep in mind is that there are like undertones of different colors. So I actually used a light brown to make this color, and I just added like a lot of white, and I mixed it together, and that gave me this color. And so if you add a lot of white to something, it tends to water it down. So it's really cool to see what colors you can make just by adding a lot of white to something. So you can try that at home if you want later, but for now, we're just gonna keep this color. And you can always pause the video if you need to, and you can catch up and rewind. And if you need help, there's always someone who's very willing to help you, especially with quarantine. You're probably at home with somebody, right? I get to spend this next couple weeks with my family. I have one brother and 2 little sisters, and it's a lot of fun. It's a big party at our house, especially when we all need the Wi-Fi at the same time. So I'm trying to stay off of the line for this because that'll be the ground, and we'll add some color to that in a minute, but we don't really need to worry about that for right now. I think we're gonna go back over with the straw color, and we are going to paint the mat again, just to keep the color pretty strong and consistent. And I kind of like painted it a little bit with the dark brown on accident. That's okay, we're gonna fix it. So we don't have to worry about it. We'll just paint it in. I think I'm gonna add some little clouds to my sky as well once we finish the man, because I like clouds. Like, clouds are fun, right? Do you like clouds? It's cool. So you can see that once we paint it over it a second time, the pencil has kind of like gone away. And so I'm gonna take a little tiny bit of my brown, like so tiny, you can barely see it. And I'm going to add it to my yellow for the straw. And that gives it that kind of shading. So it gives it like more of a depth layer. There we go, just like that, really easy. I think I'm gonna finish the man's robe again. So, because you can kind of see it's a little bit streaky, and I don't really like that for his robe. So we're just gonna touch it up a little bit with our dark brown color, and we are also going to add a sash. And my sash is gonna be dark blue. But again, you can always do whatever color you want for all of this. Oh yeah, look at that. That gives it such a rich color now. It's pretty. And you can always add more paint to your palette, but it's really hard to take the paint off the palette and put it back in your tube. And it's even harder to take it off the canvas. So you just want to make sure you add just the amount that you need, and eventually it'll get easier and you'll know the amount you need. But for now, you just work on learning what colors that you need, or the amount that you need on the palette and on the canvas. So I'm just going up and down, and you can see that there's kind of a little bit of streaks. So I just pull those up and then come back down, and it kind of blends back in better. Just get the man's sleeve really fast. This color is really nice because it's super simple, super easy. Just a nice, easy brown. There's no mixing or blending. Super nice, right? There we go. All done with that. I'm gonna wait a second and let it dry a little bit before I add the sash, because I don't want the sash to be brown. So let's add some clouds. I'm gonna take my white color, and I ran out of my blue color, but I'm gonna put it on I'm gonna put the white on where I had the blue. And so if there is any blue left, it'll mix a little bit so it's not entirely white, but it's not entirely blue. Nice little blend. You don't have to do that. You can just leave them white if you want. We're just gonna add some clouds. So you're gonna take your medium brush and you're gonna make sure it's nice and dry. Sometimes you just scrub it off on your hand, all the water. And you take your white and you dip your brush into it like this. And you don't need a lot, not a lot at all. And then you go here and you dab it. And you dab the shape of your cloud. Just like that. And you can leave a couple spots if you want. But that's kind of the shape of clouds a little bit. The cloud can look however you want it. It's one of my clouds. Let's add another one over here. And the clouds don't all have to be like on the canvas. Like they can be half off like this cloud. Just a happy little cloud over here. It can be all different shapes. They could be like that big. Like there's a little cloud in the distance. Or they can be really big if you want. You don't need a lot of paint for this. Just a little bit because you're dabbing it all across the canvas. Just like that. And there's a different brush that you can use if you want. But this brush is super easy and simple. So you don't have to worry about that. Like getting a different brush or anything. I'm going to just add another little cloud right here. And then we're probably good with the clouds, right? Yeah, that's good. Sometimes when you add clouds, it's like hard to stop because you just want to keep adding more because they're so happy. Look at that. He looks so happy. So now we're gonna add our dark brown, sorry. We're gonna add our dark blue sash to him. So this is the color I have. It's like a navy blue. If you don't have that, you can mix your light blue and a little bit of black. You have to be careful when you mix black because you can add black to a color, you can keep adding black, but you cannot take black out. It's really, really hard to reverse black. So just make sure that you add only as much as you want or need. So I'm gonna get my mini brush because it's not a big sash, so we don't need a big brush for that. And I just have my dark blue. I'm just gonna get some, and we're gonna draw across like his middle. You can add it wherever you want. I want his kind of right here. And I'm drawing the outline of my sash, like that. And then I'm just gonna color it in. And now mine kind of comes off of his robe a little bit to make it look like it's like standing out. It's not just attached to his robe. It's like kind of coming out, you know? Just like that. Painted right across. So now we're gonna do the ground and then we're done. So y'all are doing so good. It looks so great, I bet. So I'm gonna get my medium-sized brush, and the colors that you need for this mix, it's gonna be a mix, are dark brown, and you're gonna want that straw color actually, because we're gonna mix it together, but we're gonna mix it on the canvas. So first we're gonna add our dark brown. You're gonna take your brush and you're gonna do it on the edges or on the top, and you're gonna draw your line that you had from earlier in dark brown all the way across. Just like that. You don't need too much paint for that. And you can kind of see that my blue went a little bit lower on that, and that's okay. So now I'm gonna get all paint and just rub it back and forth like that. It's actually a lot of fun when you do that. So you want to try not to get it outside of your top line because you don't want to have to go back and fix your colors now, because now you already got the colors you want. So you don't want to have to fix them again. That would not be that much fun. Just getting all my paint and blending it out. Blend it, blend it. I like doing this because I like scrubbing it back and forth without anything in it. It's kind of fun. Y'all did such a good job with this. We're so close to being done. It's just this ground and then we are all done. And I love how this verse came from Luke. Luke was one of Jesus' followers, so I imagine that Luke saw this firsthand. He got to experience this story and he got to write about it. I think that's really cool. I'm gonna make sure you get all the way up to the edge of your canvas. You don't have to smear your paint entirely in because you want to make sure we can blend it. So now we're gonna get that straw color. We're not gonna wash it off. We still have that brown color of paint and we're just gonna dip it in. And now we're gonna take it to the middle and just back and forth. Let's see, it kind of gives it that two-toned color. Just like that. You can get some more, you can get some more brown if you want. I like to go all the way to the edge of my paintings, but not over on the side. So you can do whatever you want, just like always. Just a little bit more of the straw color. And I think we're all done. Guys, this looks so good. Y'all did such a good job. I'm all done with mine, but if you want to paint a word on it that stands out to you, you can paint it wherever. I'm sure you have lots of space that you can paint on. If you want to write in Sharpie the Bible verse is probably on the screen right now if you want to do that. So thank you guys so much for coming with me on this adventure where we got to paint our man who could not walk and now he can walk thanks to Jesus our Savior. So thank you so much, and next week if you want to do a little prep work, we're going to be painting on rocks. So an example of a rock is like this, and you just want to make sure it's kind of flat. But we'll talk more about that next week. See you guys soon.